that we've had the opportunity to write the linear functions for the easy stuff, now we're going to get into stuff that's a little bit more involved. We are going to start here with, let us find the equation in slope-intercept form when we're given a table. When we do this, the first thing we're going to have to do is find the slope. So I look here and I see that from here to here, I'm going up 10, because -2 minus -12 is plus 10. And I'm going up 10 here, so the change in x, or our denominator, is 10. And here, from 8 to 3 is down 5, and if I go down 5 more, I do get to -2. So the change in y is -5. I can simplify that, though, to -1/2. Now that I have the slope, I need to write that equation, and I can do that one of two ways. I'm going to show you both for this first problem. The first one is to use point-slope equation and solve for y. If you remember yesterday, point-slope equation is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so we can pick a point. You have 3 to choose from. I typically pick the first one, unless, of course, one of the other ones has a 0 in it. If it has a 0, it makes your life a little easier. But I'm going to just pick this first one. So that means when I put this in, I've got y minus 8 equals our slope of -1/2 times x minus -12, which will end up being plus 12. Then I need to solve this for y. I start by distributing in here. -1/2 times x is -1/2 x. -1/2 times positive 12 is negative. Half of 12 is 6. And then we have the y minus 8. If I add 8 to both sides, I get a final answer of y equals -1/2 x plus 2. The second method is going to be to use slope-intercept and solve for b instead. So I'm still going to use that same point, but now I'm going to put it in for x and y. So my y is 8, y equals mx plus b. My m is -1/2. And that's times my x of -12 plus b, which I don't know. Negative times a negative is positive. Half of 12 is 6, so I have 8 equals 6 plus b. I subtract 6, and I get 2 equals b. So then I take that, I substitute it back in, but substitute out the x and y, and I get back to the same answer.
You're probably wondering why we showed you 2 different ways of solving this problem. We showed you this way, 2 different ways, so that you can find a way that works best for you and that you understand what you're doing every time. We just want to make sure that you show your work and understand either way is okay with both of us.
I will also tell you, some of you also may have learned it one way or another in Algebra 1, and that's the way you prefer. And so I want to make sure that I'm not in that mindset where you get thinking that you can only do it one way. Let's take a look at the next example. This next example is the same thing, except we have 2 points instead of them in a table. If you want to write them in an XY table, absolutely go for it. But what we really need to do is find our slope, which, if you remember, our formula yesterday was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So when we do that, we first find that m. Think in terms of x1, y1 for the 1, 3, and x2, y2 for the 4, 9. And it might be helpful for you to label them so you can get used to where you need to place them. We have y2, which is 9, minus y1, which is 3, over x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is 1. 9 minus 3 is 6, 4 minus 1 is 3. 6 over 3 simplifies to 2. I am going to, just for the sake of ease of less steps, I'm going to use point-slope form. That's just my preference, but it really doesn't matter which you use. So if we do y, and I'm going to pick my first point just because the numbers are smaller. So y minus 3 equals my m of 2 times x minus 1. And then I can distribute that 2 in, and that gives me y minus 3 equals 2x minus 2. I can then add in 3 on both sides, which gives me a final answer of y equals 2x plus 1. Finally, able to write an equation from a word problem. So we looked at rents and selling prices of properties from a game. We want to write the equation that represents the situation with X being the selling price and Y being the rent price. So if it helps you, maybe you should write in that this is X and this is Y. So the first thing we need to do is find that slope. So I know that this is linear because I'm telling you it's linear. So therefore I'm going to use these two ordered pairs, and I can see that the difference here on my Y's is plus 3, and my difference in my X's is plus 15. Which means my slope is 3 over 15, which simplifies to 1/5. Now, I'm going to pick to use this point, just my personal preference, and use point slope form. So, actually, you know what, I take that back. Let's use slope intercept form since we use point slope on the next one, just so you can see I'm not being biased towards one versus the other. Y is 9, our M is 1/5. Times our X, which is 75, plus B. 1/5 of 75 I know is 15. And then if I subtract 15 from both sides, 9 minus 15, B gives me -6. So therefore, when I go through and rewrite it, I've got, put the Y back in. Our M is 1/5 still. X, put the X back in, -6, giving me my final answer. So now, you're going to go ahead, and I've got 3 U-try problems for you. Here's your first one. We got a table. It is linear, so if you want to just find the slope between the first 2 points, that is up to you. You got a line with 2 points given. And then we got a good old Honeycrisp apples problem. I'll give you a hint here. There's a couple different ways you could write this equation.
So the next step would be for you to go into today's meet with the link for Unit 2 and give us your prediction of the homecoming score.
Yes, we want to know, do you think Park's going to win on Friday or lose, and if so, by how much? And have a good day.